blood. On theme, I guess. Bitch. Rude.
Every goddamn film, a different face. Just want a new face, no more change. No new face, people die. Jason V.
Welcome back, Beauts. I hope you're loving the Halloween series so far. Let me know in the comments down below which is your favourite tutorial up to this point. But don't worry, there is so much more to come. Grab yourself a beer, get cosy and get ready for some cosy camping fun.
Let's have a look at Jason's faces throughout the ages. We had this Jason,
cool.
this Jason, this Jason, this Jason, this Jason, this Jason, this Jason. Many Jasons. I can see why he's a little bit frustrated. Anyway, firstly, let's make his iconic hockey mask. So, I just bought a cheapo mask from Amazon and I'm just changing it up a little bit to make it look less cheapo. First, I sanded the surface of the mask. This provides a key for the paint so the paint doesn't just scratch straight off. And then I cut lots of different grooves and cuts into the edge of the mask to make it look old. Now it's time for paint. First, I put a white layer of paint over the whole mask just to act as a primer. This doesn't have to be particularly neat, it's just so that your other colours show up a little bit better and it mutes down that horrible bright yellow colour. And then just going over with this kind of browny tone, which I mixed up with a little bit of yellow and black and brown. Just stippling that over and then blending it in with a sponge. Again, you don't really want it to look tidy, you want it to look messy and old and aged. And I just use that same tone to go around each of the holes on the mask just to kind of emphasize those a little bit more and make it look like dirt has accumulated around them. I then did the exact same thing with some black paint, just making sure I blended it out really, really well. At this stage, it does look a little bit like a potato, I'm not gonna lie. But it will soon start to look more like the hockey mask we know and love once you put those red stripes back on. And use that same technique with the black all around those edges and all those cuts that you added on the edge of the mask as well. I then mixed up a little bit of white with a tiny little bit of black to make this kind of grey tone and use this as kind of like a highlight. And then I mixed some red with some black to paint those stripes back in. And now it looks just like the iconic mask out of the film and not like some cheap, crappy knockoff from Amazon. So now we're on to the makeup and the new face that I've been instructed to create. So I decided to go with half of one thing and half of another because I couldn't quite make up my mind what I wanted to go with. So on the one half of the face, you want to block out the eyebrows, and then on the opposite side of the face, you want to draw in this kind of slashed mouth with a lip line or an eyeliner, whatever you have to hand. And then using some skin adhesive, just put that all over that area. Allow it to go clear and tacky, and then stick on some teeth. These teeth I made with polymorph plastic, which is small pellets that you put into very hot water. It goes soft and pliable, and you can create these lovely tooth shapes. The next step is to build up the edges of that torn mouth. So for this, I'm using latex and cotton wool. Just very thin wisps of cotton wool and plenty of latex. This ensures that you can blend it into the face a lot easier. If you go in with really chunky pieces of cotton wool, it's a lot harder to blend and you'll get a much less realistic effect. And also what really helps, another top tip, is to dip pieces of cotton wool actually into a bowl full of latex. That way they go really moldable and sculptable. You can see me just there, just dipping that piece, that bottom piece, in that latex. Now the downside to using lots of latex is it does take a while to dry, so you can speed it up by using a blow dryer like you see me doing there. Just make sure it's on a low setting so you don't burn your face, because nobody wants that. And now taking that same spatula and some 2-part silicone, I'm just mixing up a small batch of the 2-part silicone. This is part A and part B. You take equal parts of each and you mix them well. Make sure you use either a different spatula for each, or you clean the spatula really well between dipping into each pot, because if you cross-contaminate, you ruin the whole batch. Once you've mixed up that batch, you just want to smooth it over the edges of that latex and cotton wool. There's my design for you, just in case you're wondering what I'm doing. Smooth it over the edges of that latex and cotton wool just to blend the edges better into the face. This is an optional step, you don't have to do that, but I just wanted to make it more seamless. And now, as you can see there, I'm taking some alcohol paints just to paint the inside and the outside of that torn mouth. You don't have to use alcohol paint, you can use water-based face paint, you can use lipstick, you can use eyeshadows, you can use cream paint, whatever you happen to have to hand. Just make sure that it's all skin safe. Now I'm just dotting, or rather stippling, the red tone on the outside of that torn mouth, and also a yellowy tone just to create a good base skin tone, and then using a lot of red on the inside of that mouth because you want it to look really torn and bloody and just nasty and gruesome. Just keep building up the colours. Use a fine brush to paint in between the teeth. I'm just using, you know, one of those kind of bent eyeliner brushes. I just found it was a lot easier to get in between the teeth and be able to see what I was doing. I also painted a nice yellowy tone over the teeth so that they weren't bright white, because let's face it, if you looked like this, you wouldn't really be getting your teeth whitened, would you? As a final gruesome touch, I added some blood drips, again using that alcohol paint because it dries and then it doesn't budge, but you can use some fake blood if you prefer. I know YouTube doesn't really like blood, so shh, don't tell YouTube that we've got fake blood on YouTube. They might throw me off. Anyway, onto that other side, which, as you saw from the design, is a skull. So I'm just using a piece of muslin and using that just to cover my eye. This gives a really cool effect of no eye, but you can actually see through it because it's thin enough and loose weave enough that you can see through it. Obviously your vision is a little bit obscured, but you can see well enough. So I just glued that on with some skin adhesive, and then you can just see that I'm drawing in some skull shapes. I'm using a reference picture that I found online and messing it up quite a few times, as you can see, but it's fine because you can clean it off with a baby wipe and then just redraw it. And then taking some water-based face paint and first of all painting a nice white layer over the whole of that skull. I'm using more of a precision brush so that I can paint around the areas that I've drawn, so I can still see where I've drawn and I can still see my design. I'm then taking a yellowy browny tone and I'm just using that to shade. What you want to do is use different variants of the brown so that you can shade gradients, so it doesn't just look like one tone. So I used the yellowy tone first, and I used a brown tone, and now I'm just going in with some brown eyeshadow and a big fluffy brush just to add some more shading and tone and dimension to that skull, just to make it look a little bit more realistic. And now I'm going to shut up and just let you watch. Okay, I said I was going to shut up, but I'm just interjecting again because I just wanted to say that in the same way as you use the different tones of water-based face paint, you want to use different tones of eyeshadow, getting progressively darker the closer to the area that you want shaded, so that you get a gradient basically, starting dark and getting progressively lighter. And then I just decided to do this extra step of making the skull look really graphic, and by graphic I don't mean nasty and gruesome, I mean graphic as in graphic illustration, by just taking that fine brush with the bent end again and just painting in some fine black lines. Again, this is optional. If you'd rather your skull was just kind of shaded and more realistic looking, then go ahead and you do you. But I just really liked the way this looked, so I went with it. And then I'm just adding some watered down black face paint just to really deepen up those shadows even more. For the final touch, I took some white cream paint and just created some highlights. Then I kind of felt like the other side needed something a little bit extra, so I decided to do this kind of really messy smoky eye. It's not a pretty smoky eye, but it was just to add a little bit of dimension to the other side of the face, because I just felt that it just didn't quite look right with just the slash mouth and nothing else. And similarly, I decided to go in with some foundation just to, you know, finish off that other side of the face. But you don't really want to make it look pretty per se, but you just want to make it look kind of done and finished. Painting a little bit of blood coming out of the mouth there. Again with those alcohol paints so that it will dry and it won't budge or go anywhere. And then we are done. Really hope that Jason likes his new face. Let's see what he thinks.
Bitch. Yeah, I guess the new face is okay. It'll do. I won't go on a killing spree. Thanks, Jason.
Well, thank goodness for that. Jason is pleased with his new face. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I couldn't have 13 creations without doing the most famous number 13 of all. If you did like the tutorial, then make sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you recreate this look, please don't forget to hashtag #PrettyScaryArt so that I can see them. Bye! Oh shit, what's that hanging off the mask? Oh my god.
Where? Nothing.
I thought there was a spider. I can't see properly with this over my arm.